The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Friends in Recovery podcast, the podcast that is here to help you, a loved one, or a friend get started down the road to recovery. This is the Friends in Recovery podcast, brought to you by the Genesis House. Genesis House, providing a safe, nurturing environment to heal from addiction since 1992. Please be a friend and share our message with a friend on Podbean, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or YouTube. And now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, welcome everyone. Friends in Recovery podcast. We're broadcasting live from Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, and what a beautiful, wonderful place we're in. I wish you could see it. It's awesome. I'm Mike Miles. We have Ed, the step guy Lombardi, and we have two special guests I'll introduce in a moment today. We have royalty with us, actually. Friends in Recovery podcast can be reached at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. You can call us at 1-800-989-6504 or friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. Again. Also look for us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Be sure to like us and subscribe. We would like to take this moment to thank Genesis House, and I sincerely mean this. I've had friends, family, people I love and near and dear to me, and believe me, we've had some good results and some really successful recoveries as a result of people going down to Genesis House. We're back here at Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, and we're going to be doing our show right now. And I want to introduce two guests. We have Woody Giessmann, and Woody's going to tell us a little bit more about himself in a moment. And then we have Tony V, and Tony will also tell us a little bit more about himself. So.
Yes, I will.
Tony.
Yeah, Tony.
Welcome.
Yes, I will.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
Try to stop me. That's
Great
what I
having
want to
you.
see.
We also have Ed Chionchio on the line temporarily.
Hi, Ed.
Eddie, thank you.
Hi, guys.
Ed
Hi,
apparently
guys. I'm, here
calling in.
Minneapolis, actually, St. Paul, Minnesota right now. I'm sitting with Sergeant Brian Casey from the St. Paul Police Department. He's an EAP here.
Nice.
And I came out to visit him, and he's listening, and he'll be a future guest of ours. So he has a lot of good stuff going on, so he'll be a future guest of ours one day.
Well,
welcome, Woody and Tony. It's great to have you guys on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Ed. Good to be here.
It's great. That guy's probably just happy to get out of Minnesota for a time. Has it broke freezing yet?
It's just barely. It's just barely. It's
not your life.
He doesn't. He has no business coming here. He just needs to get out of Minnesota.
There you go.
This is going to be a show, guys.
Yeah, it is.
We're going to have a few laughs today. We appreciate you. We appreciate it.
My question is do we get to keep the coffee mug?
Yeah, you do.
Anybody? We do?
Absolutely.
I was supposed to bring you T-shirts, and I forgot them.
No.
For you, Ed,
I'll
Woody,
mail 'em.
you can take the mug.
I'm not going anywhere without a T-shirt.
I would rather wear the mug.
Beautiful.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
You guys
boy.
are insane.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're going to start out with it with Woody.
I'm going to try to be nice.
All right. That's
right.
all.
Tony, we're saving you for the wrap-up.
All right.
Woody,
Do we know what we're even doing on this show, guys?
Yeah, we're talking
we're
about
going to be talking about Minnesota.
I don't know. I'm not sure if Mike, Mike's having a tough week. He called me Ed. So I don't know. It's Rich, the step guy. Just remember.
Rich, Mike, Tony.
Let's not forget.
Yeah, we're out there.
Oh, man. So let's let Woody tell us a little bit about himself. Woody, it's all yours.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
sir.
I'm all on. Okay.
All right.
So So I'm in in long-term recovery. Let's start there.
Congrats.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
yes.
you. Yeah.
Congrats. Happy
And
birthday.
my anniversary for sobriety is April 12th of 1990.
Awesome.
It was one of those times where you look in the mirror and go, I just can't look at myself.
Yeah.
Now you know how the rest of us feel. It's a good thing you caught hold of that. Nah, it's good, man, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Long-term recovery. That's long-term.
Yeah, well,
Congratulations.
thank you. I was living in Los Angeles and living the dream out there.
Well, you were a rock and roll guy.
Well, I was a rock and roll. You know, I tell my wife I used to be this really cool rock and roll musician.
She's not buying it.
She's like, "That's right, you used to be."
You had hair back then, didn't you?
Oh,
If I remember
let's
the
not talk
band,
about
right?
here, Mr. Jonathan's
Yeah,
here.
that's a low blow, Chionchio.
So yeah, guilty as charged. I was a drummer, signed to Warner Brothers, toured extensively with a band called the Del Fuegos. Man, we had a good time. Tom Petty tour, the Kinks, ZZ Top. I played with James Brown.
Wow.
Awesome.
That and Bruce Springsteen.
Wow.
You
that
backed up Bruce Springsteen?
No. He jammed with
No.
the Del Fuegos.
Nice.
He and Niels Lofgren showed up one night.
Oh, my God.
There was a knock on our dressing room door, and they said, Bruce wants to come back and say hello. And we're like, let's go.
Nice.
Can't you see we're busy?
Go back to New Jersey.
James Brown could have used the meat.
But anyway, so I've been in recovery for a little while, and I've been very fortunate in recovery. I've worked in hospitals, and I worked at a place called Hope House for about 5.5 years, where I kind of cut my teeth. Cambridge Health Alliance, and then I worked for the Department of Mental Health for a little while, and then back in 2001, 2002, a woman approached me with a check and said, I want you to open the doors and turn on the phone and see what happens here. So I started this program called Right Turn.
Nice.
And, for me, and I think you guys probably all identify, it's really about showing up every day and just being of service, you know?
Where did you get the name Right Turn?
Who said that?
Mr.
To
Jonathan.
be the voice of God.
Yes, coming from the background.
So I'm driving down. Can I use language on this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm driving down the street, and I'm talking to a friend of mine. I'm on my phone, and I'm looking at Memorial Drive, and I'm on. And I said to my friend, so this woman writes me a check, and she said, I know about you. I want you to open the doors. I want you to turn on the phone. No expectation. Here's money. Go get started. Awesome. Get busy. So my friend on the phone said, so what are you going to call this? And I said, shit, I need you to take a right turn. And she said, that'll do it.
That'll
Wow.
do it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Unbelievable.
That's good.
But as usual, I was in the wrong lane.
Thank God it didn't say "do not enter." That would have been a whole nother thing. He's got a recovery house. It's called "Do Not Enter." How am I supposed to help anybody? What the heck?
Beautiful.
What kind of a thing you're running here? No, that's Providence.
Yeah, that's
man.
awesome. It is Providence.
That's Providence.
It's amazing how things happen.
Yeah.
No coincidences.
Yeah, no coincidence.
No.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I got to say, guys, Woody's program is amazing. Woody and I have been working together for a long time now, and he does wonders out of that program. I'm glad the wrong right turn happened, because I could tell you he has gotten a lot of people the help they desperately needed, and they're successful musicians, successful everyday people. And Woody, you got a lot to be proud of over that right turn. All kidding aside, I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks,
now,
Ed.
Yeah, and on a serious note from me, Tony V here, honestly, I have to it's a precursor. Right Turn started out, if I remember correctly, to help people, not solely, but almost solely in the arts, because it's a different, sometimes their struggles are different than other people.
Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, a lot of people that came to us that were kind of pulled into were creative people, right?
Yeah.
To your point.
Yeah.
Musicians and painters and poets and a lot of comedians and creative
a
people.
lot of our buddies, have found help with you guys, and
Tony, maybe you can
great.
speak to what is the major difference between someone that does performance arts and, let's say, regular people.
I can.
Normal people.
There's
I should
something wrong
say.
with every one of us.
Yeah, exactly.
In a word, I can say this: it's ego. You know what I mean? I think sometimes creative people think that because they found a way to, make a living or express themselves differently than a 9-to-5 job, they think that it makes them special.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a big history of, of writers especially and poets and stuff being alcoholics and sort of, that's where I get my creativity. That's my muse, and no one can understand it. But in this atmosphere that Right Turn has brought about, it's no one has that cop out because everyone's in the same boat.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They can identify with each other.
Yeah, you can go to. Here's the beauty of Right Turn. You can go to a meeting at Right Turn, and then the most amazing jam will happen afterwards. They have like a stage.
Yeah.
There's a stage with instruments, and the meeting will break up, and people will just start noodling, and then all of a sudden it turns into the best club you've ever been in your life, and not a drop of alcohol.
And everybody's sober.
And everybody's sober, not a drop of alcohol or drug
That's right.
around you, and it's just great. It's all about that, and I think that's really part of it, is that to find a place where you're comfortable, because I don't know if a lot of people can, so-called normal people or regular people can identify with the life of a troubadour.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whether it's a comedian or a musician or a writer or whatever, you're on the road all the time. You're up late. You're around stuff all the time. I make my living in bars still. Right. You know what I mean? Every pizza joint and Chinese restaurant and bar that has a room will put on a comedy show. And I was around it every night of my life, and it started to win.
How long have you two been friends? Excuse me. How long have you and Woody been friends?
If
you are friends, you might not even be friends.
Well, let's get at the root of that. Woody, I've been meaning to talk to you about some things.
We've been dating for a while.
Wow. All righty then.
It's Massachusetts.
Yes. Yes, it is.
We live in, so it's okay. No, we've known each other 15 to 20 years.
Probably.
Close to that, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm sober since 91.
Right.
Awesome. And as I say, I know a lot of friends, and we do shows to support Right Turn, comedy shows for fundraisers and stuff like that. And Woody's one of those guys, when you meet him, you just want to help. You know what I mean? Because his heart's in the right place, and there seems to be no ulterior motive to him. It's really to be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. And I just want to, Woody, I was working with a client last night. I called Woody at 9:00 at night, and just like the rest of us, he was there to help me. He told me what to do, who to blah blah blah, whatever. We had our conversation, and he really guided me to what I needed to do. So Woody is just like John. I mean, just like Mike, and just like Rich and me. We'll take those calls. It doesn't matter, 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the morning. We'll help everybody out. And Woody, that's one thing I can say about with you working over all these years, is that you're always there to help, and it's just amazing that that we have that kind of relationship, and I know somebody else that's just like Mike and myself and Rich that can do that. So I really appreciate that, Woody, and people on the other end of the phone really appreciate it too. So
thanks, Ed, man. That's kind of you to say. And we've worked together on some people, and I've sent some people down to your program, the Genesis House down in Florida, and had some a really good outcome. So we're all on the same train here.
And also
Absolutely.
I got to say, knowledgeable. You know what I mean? We've been in situations like that where if you have a loved one, especially, or yourself, and you're floundering, you don't know which way to turn, you don't know the first step in getting help, you call somebody like Woody, and he goes, oh, yeah, you need to call this guy. We'll call this guy, see if they got a bed. If they don't have a bed, this guy's got a bed. What's your insurance? What do you need to do? Here's how we do it. And then all of a sudden there's a calm comes over, and you go, oh, this isn't insurmountable.
Absolutely.
I
think a lot of people, I'm in the recovery business now. I was a cop for 35 years. I've been sober a long time myself. But designer recovery, back in the day, I went away in 86. I went up to Seminole Point up in New Hampshire. There was a lot of places up in New Hampshire, then, But the good news was it was kind of like a factory, but there was good food, and you were away from everything, and you got sober. But AA was the driving force, and I can honestly say I don't remember much about that place, but I do remember going to meetings every single day and getting acclimated to AA and the steps and the everything. But what I discovered was when I got out that I wasn't unique, that I, even being a cop, I didn't want anyone to know I was a cop, especially up there. I thought they were going to bundle me and kill me, I was a little paranoid, But, when I started going to AA meetings and I started meeting people from all walks of life, and I used to go to the South Boston meeting, St. Bridget's, I believe, and I met some people that were in the arts.
Yeah.
At that meeting. I can't mention their names,
No,
but,
of course not.
Obviously, I started going, wow, other people are in this. It's just not me. It's just not, and it was nice. But I really believe a place like Genesis, and I'm sure you probably agree with this, Woody, is that, there's no design or recovery. It is what it is. But I really do believe that if you're from a special walk of life or your profession, to be around people like yourself, it makes a big difference because you're going to pay attention more. You're going to hear some great networking, that you might not hear if you were somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not. I think you hit it right on the head. You're not special,
right?
You know what I mean. You have at least your recovery in common with people. But I think every walk of life thinks that they have a unique circumstance that I think drives you into abuse, and then it also can be your way of recovery.
Coming out,
like
right.
I got to imagine that being a cop is. You're seeing the downside of life all the time, and it gets to you. And, for us in the arts, I know when I started doing stand-up, it was just everywhere. It was just our life. You know what I mean? And I said this earlier to somebody. Every night of my life was like Caligula's birthday party. And we thought, that was normal.
Right,
We thought, well, because everybody I know was doing that, and then when you realize, like, oh, this is not sustainable.
Right.
Woody, how much does the creative side of the people that are coming to you play into their recovery? Tony said that it's not uncommon for a jam to break out. Is music part of that process?
Well, we tend to make expressive therapies, music and the arts, and trying to tap into that creative self that may have been crushed and pummeled by
years of abuse.
Right. I mean, I say that myself as a studio musician living out in Los Angeles and touring with the Del Fuegos. I was constantly, as Tony said, in very high-risk situations, right?
Is that what they call it?
Yeah. and being a police officer comes with its own risk,
it does,
A lot of alcoholism in the police officers' world. But, we celebrate creativity every day in our clinic. We like to help people understand that recovery is not a bad place. It's not a boring place. But it's more about trying to tap into that, who you are, and if your addiction has made you to move away from what you do that you love doing, let's try to get back to what it is that you do.
Do you find that there's a fear involved where somebody may be using alcohol, as Tony's point earlier, as their muse, that without it, that they no longer are going to have that creativity?
Yeah, that's that whole perception thing. I was working with this really cool band from Britain trying to make a name for themselves. And
which we can't name now.
Which I can't name. Been on the road for 50 years. And, it was really about the perception there, man. That, you have to be, you have to be an alcoholic to be a great American, author, or you have to be a cocaine addict to be a great comedian, or a heroin addict to write a great song. And these are all perceptions, So let's talk about those perceptions and how.
Steve Sweeney, and he did a police benefit years ago for us, and he was doing some good stuff on cocaine, and I had a problem with booze, drugs, every drug you can imagine, but it was amazing, and I don't want to break his anonymity, but I'm pretty sure that I assumed he was recovering because of the way he was speaking. So when you go back after you've been sober a long time, both of you, were you better?
Well,
what's missing? Is anything missing?
Nothing. Here's the thing: to Woody's point, and nothing's missing. I mean, the thing that's missing is, the perception that you can't do what you do without being high on some level. And I think for comedians, I know this especially, that they think that's what makes them funny.
Right.
That the ability to free themselves up to act like they act on stage. Like nobody can be who they are on stage 24 hours a day. You'd shoot yourself. You know what I mean? Because that's just an amped up part of your personality. Right. Whether you take it up a notch or down a notch, it's not really who you are. It's who you write for. Right. And I think that the fear is that without substance or abusing anything, almost, you're going to lose that. That's not going to be. That part of you is going to just go away, and I think that's and it's a real fear, because once you start making your living doing what we do, you don't ever want to go back to not making a living doing it.
Right.
Well, your creativity must have happened before using.
That happens, yeah.
So there must be a way to tap into a person's persona and say you're not going to lose it. You had this gift.
You had it right
prior to the abuse.
Yeah, and it's a falsehood that's what makes you funny. But there's stage fright you got to worry about, and there's what are people going to think, and how am I going to write if I'm sleeping. You know what I mean? Right. If I'm up, I can write. Write. Then you look at your paper the next day and you go, oh boy, none of that's going to be said in public.
That's exactly true. That's exactly true, Tony. There was a study
that drugs and alcohol take. Oh, sorry, Woody.
There's a study it came out of Manhattan with 280 people, addicted people, and the whole perception of I'm more productive, I have more ideas, I have more original ideas, I have better ideas. From the drug use.
Right.
Yeah.
And the drug of choice for this study was actually cocaine.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah, I hated cocaine. But I hated cocaine, but I love the smell of it.
Seems like I might have studied that for a time.
Was I in that study?
Does being high and drinking and everything take the edge off before you get on stage? Because, listen, the people who are on the other side of the stage, we were all drunk or high or whatever, but did that take the edge off trying to get you guys out there and relaxed? And is that part of the draw too?
I think that's how it starts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You need you have a drink or two to just, calm the nerves. Because when you think about it, it's a nerve-wracking situation. And, it's a little different for musicians, I think, than comedians. We're only as good as our last set. You know what I mean? Nobody cares that I was funny last week. Right. They only care if I'm funny right now, on the stage in front of you. So there's that thing of like, oh, how am I gonna replicate that? Oh, and I felt this way when I did that, so it must mean that I have to do this so I can continue. But that's part of the trick of it, of getting yourself on stage. Without being artificially boosted, and enjoy what you're doing. That's where the real joy comes in.
Well, initially, it's like the social lubricant. You know what I mean? It's like we use it, we drink, and we get loose a little bit, and da-da-da, but then eventually you're taking over.
Well, yeah, but I mean, isn't that the thing with alcohol especially, and I know with cocaine too, that for a while when you're doing it, it jazzes you up, and then you feel creative, and then all of a sudden it becomes a depressant. You know what I mean?
The progression absolutely gets the best of you.
Exactly.
I mean, I have to say.
Go right ahead, Woody.
The last thing here, I'd have to say, there was a time when I couldn't look in the mirror because I realized that I was. And I'd just done a country and western album. It was terrible. Really? It was terrible.
Wow, talk about hitting bottom.
But I realized that not only was my musicianship terrible,
right,
but I was just doing it just so I could pay for my addiction.
Right.
And you had a lot. You had a lot to sing about then.
That's a good bottom. Hey, we'll be right back. We'll be right back. Yeah, you're listening to Friends in Recovery podcast live from Studio 21 podcast with the famous Tony V and Woody G. Giessmann.
Put that hammer down and check out the Don't Do It Yourself podcast.
The Don't Do It Yourself podcast is a weekly podcast where Tommy Two Shoes and No Nonsense Nance sit down with a different specialist every week. If you're tired of unvetted and uninsured contractors charging too much money for not enough quality, you need to check out the Don't Do It Yourself podcast, the Contractors Referral Program. The Don't Do It Yourself podcast is live on YouTube every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. or on demand on iTunes, Podbean, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast catcher. Put that hammer down and don't do it yourself. Genesis House is a premier substance abuse and rehabilitation facility located in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. We have been providing the highest quality of addiction treatment since 1992 and are accredited by the Joint Commission. We offer a range of programs that include detox, residential treatment, dual diagnosis, a Christian track for people who want to incorporate their faith into treatment, a uniform services track, and we work with most major insurance carriers. Genesis House is led by a dedicated team of administrative and clinical professionals, and we stand on our commitment to excellence in recovery services. Contact us today to find out more about our program. Take the first step and call Genesis House at 800-737-0933 or visit us on the web at www.genesishouse.net. That's 800-737-0933 or www.genesishouse.net. Begin your journey to a long and successful recovery with Genesis House.
Soul Sessions is an intuitive life coaching service that provides a safe place for everyone to get the guidance they are seeking. Intuitive life coach Chionchio Sr. Slade uses her powerful gifts of empathy, spiritual connection, intuition, human experience, and conscious listening to provide a safe place to evolve and shed light on the truth of who we all are, brilliant divine beings. Remembering ourselves as spiritual beings helps us to navigate through the human experience with more gratitude and ease. For more information or to book a free 30-minute telephonic consultation, please visit our website at www.soulsessions.com. That's www.SOEL for Seeing Ourselves Evolve Lovingly, sessions with an S.com. We can all use a little guidance.
Richie Lombardi, the Step Guy, joins us once a month on the second Tuesday, where we plan to get in-depth with each of the 12 steps to recovery. Come get sober with the Friends in Recovery podcast and Rich, the Step Guy, Lombardi. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to get this and every episode each and every week.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back, Mike.
I'm sorry. I'm somewhere else.
Yeah.
Where were you, man?
Welcome back.
I want to go there. It seemed peaceful.
Exactly.
You guys are way too much
Oh,
fun in
man.
the studio without me, all right?
I almost didn't come here today, too. Welcome back to the Friends in Recovery podcast, live from Studio 21 Podcast Café. We're here with Woody Giessmann, and we're here with the great and funny Tony V, and, of course, Rich, the Step Guy. Nice. And I'm not sure who's doing time. Takes time.
Times takes
That's
time.
going to be
It's coming
our
right
boy.
I wasn't sure when it was. There it is.
It takes time.
That's what I was waiting for. I thought we were going there.
Time takes time. Wow. Welcome to the Time Takes Time portion of our show, sponsored by the Genesis House. This is where we ask our friends in recovery to email us your sober anniversary so we can celebrate them with you. Congratulations to the following. Well, first of all, we want to congratulate Chris M. out of Drake. It's celebrating 1 year.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right.
Congratulations.
Going.
We got Ron G. from Erie, Pennsylvania, 15 years. Gail M. out of Duluth, Minnesota. Eddie, you're in Minnesota. Why don't you stop by and see her? 1 year.
I should.
Yeah, there you go. Todd K., Fort Myers, Florida, 4 months. Maureen D. from Chevy Chase, Maryland, 1 year. And then last but not least, Thurman M. out of Hope, Missouri, 26 years.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to everybody.
In a
That's
row.
awesome.
In a row.
26
In a row.
In a row, yeah, exactly.
Thurman. This is a name you don't hear often.
Yeah, no.
Thurman.
So, if you'd like to celebrate your anniversary with us, please email us your first name and your last initial, city, state, and anniversary date to help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. Once again, help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. Remember, time takes time, sponsored by the Genesis House, and listen for your name in upcoming shows.
Time takes time.
Time.
That is spooky.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Mr. Jonathan
Thank
put
you.
that
That's
together.
nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
You
That's
think I could
nice.
sing at the house?
His favorite shows, the Ghostbusters. Hey, I had a few questions.
good.
You guys are a little bit older. I'm not saying you're old, but I mean you've been around.
I'm old.
Obviously.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Can't hide it.
But when you look at recovery now compared to when you first started, and I'm going to start with Woody. And you're really into it. I mean, you do it from all angles. It's a business. It's from your heart. You do the 12 stuff. I mean, I'll say one thing. Eddie Chionchio is, without a doubt, one of the hardest working men I've ever met. He didn't pay me to say this either. He's everywhere, and he's always got that great personality. He's never down. And if he is, he's doing it in the hotel because I've never seen him down. But he speaks so highly of certain people. And I got to tell you, Woody, I feel like I know you because he always talks about you. And I don't think it's because you're a famous drummer or whatever. It's because of what you do now. So compared to where you were in 91 when you first started and where you are now 2018, do you see it? What do you see as far as recovery? Is it more acceptable? Is it, in your words?
Well, no, that's a good question. Where is this field come? Where were we?
Mm-hmm.
And, if I were completely honest with you, I walked away from Los Angeles and Warner Brothers and the music business, and mostly to go back to school because I felt like I was on this mission to help people who needed help, knowing that 12-step recovery and the fellowships of 12-step recovery were there, but sometimes people needed professional help.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that's kind of what I needed to do, is help people get well enough so that they could actually go to 12-step recovery. And sometimes people just need some professional help. So to answer your question, is a long-winded answer.
No, it's not.
Is that when I started off in this business back in 1993, mental health and addictions did not talk to each other, right?
Good point.
I mean, they would.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started off working at Cambridge Health at the hospital, addictions was on the second floor, and psychiatry was on the third floor.
The locked ward.
And they didn't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got a guy here. He's an alcoholic. I think he's depressed. We need to do an evaluation. And they went, not today.
I don't think so. Yeah, the elevator's broken. How are we gonna get up there? It's a whole.
Dual diagnosis is a big thing nowadays with McLean's. I have a private practice. I send a lot of people for help. But I think everyone I see, honestly, and maybe it's jaded, I don't know, but it seems to me everyone I do see, and I see a lot of people in law enforcement, and all walks of life, but mostly law enforcement, is they do have a dual diagnosis. They are depressed. I don't know whether it's from the addiction or they had depression, and that's why they have the addiction. It's almost like the egg before the chicken concept.
It is the chicken and the egg thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you would have diagnosed me, if you would have seen me, when I walked through the doors of recovery, you would have said, "Oh, this guy's got some problems."
Yeah.
And I did, but at the same time, thank God for my 12-step fellowship. I stuck it out long enough and got some professional help.
Yep.
And a lot of those labels didn't really stick after a period of time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they didn't exist.
That's a good point.
Guys,
That's a great
in the past, I mean, a lot of people were relapsing because of their mental health issues that weren't addressed, and they didn't have anything to take that edge off. Like a couple shows ago with Sincere, the anxiety. The anxiety is a huge thing amongst everybody in recovery, and now it's being addressed, and we have less people relapsing because of we're merging both of these, the substance abuse and the mental health piece, and a lot of people are coming a long way now versus years and years ago. Am I correct? I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, it's a good point,
think so,
Ed.
yeah.
Good point, Ed. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing how you put the alcohol down and the drugs down, and the mental health kind of like takes care of itself as you go.
Sometimes.
You know?
Well,
it dissipates.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's amazing how less anxious you are when you're like not drunk and worried about the police coming through the door. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That takes a worry off.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. They're not coming?
No, not today.
Tony, what do you think?
And especially
It's like-
with a bunch of cocaine.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
God.
Well, it's like when you get stopped for speeding now.
Yeah.
You go, oh, right. All I was doing was speeding. It takes a level right out.
It takes the edge
You
off.
want my driver's license?
Right, yes. You're absolutely correct, officer. Have at it.
There's no powder on it, nothing. Look at it.
Frisk me. Look at the card. Do whatever you want. Write your ticket. I'm going home.
Nice. The stress
Never
is
had
gone.
that in the early days.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
good
But it
stuff,
goes
good
away,
Yeah,
as you go.
it
you
does.
Know?
But
You got to stick around
yeah.
long enough for it to
Yeah,
happen.
well,
for it
that's
to
the
happen.
thing.
Right.
That's-
Yeah, you got to stick around
A
long
lot of
enough.
people, they don't stick.
No.
I was sober 14 months, and I swear I was in the shower, and I lived in this old house, actually a museum, the Whistler House Museum of Lowell, and there was one of those old-fashioned showers and had the plastic around, and I got an anxiety attack. Never had one in my life, and if I did, I probably anesthetized it with booze and drugs when I was 13. I don't remember, but from that day, it lasted about 2.5 years. I went to every hospital, doctors. I would panic attack city, and you know what? It was almost like challenging me, I think, to go back to what I was doing, because here I am, stone cold sober, and I'm out of my freaking mind. I couldn't drive, I couldn't eat, I couldn't go to sleep, and I had to ride it out. And I talked to people in the program who would talk about the unknown fears, and I'd say, all right, and I'd move on to the next guy and talk to him, but you get through it, you know. And I think if I hadn't stuck it out, I think if I'd gone back out, I never would have come back.
Right.
Yeah. Did you guys ever experience anything like that? Or?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I think we all do, on our own level. You know what I mean? I think what's happened a lot is that, like everything else, people learn. Like when we, back 20 years ago, 19 years ago when we got sober, it was very hush-hush. You didn't want anybody to know. I mean, it was, the whole anonymity thing was
Great
like,
point.
you don't really, if somebody said to you, I'm a friend of Bill's, you'd go like, oh, Jesus, But I think,
Who's Bill?
Bill who? I don't know. I know a lot of Bills, my friend.
Don't talk about Bill.
But now
So
I think,
true.
that everybody knows what that means now.
Stigma,
And we learn, like you learn that, mind and body go together and mental health and addiction can, go hand in hand. You can't cure one without the other. And I think, it gets layered on top of each other and you learn more and it makes everything more acceptable. You know what I mean? And it's not it's not the, back in the 50s where everything was hush-hush. Oh, Mom needs her little helpers or whatever. It's like, now, I had a problem. I don't have it anymore. Hope today, and then that's how you got to live it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, recovery has a voice finally. We were always the quiet ones, but now recovery's starting to get a voice, thank God.
Yeah, well, and recovery has developed. I mean, listen, 30 years ago when I got sober, it was only 40 years old, the 12-step program, you know what I mean? So it's only 83 years old now, so it's still young. Yeah, so it's developed more and more, just like your recovery develops more and more. It's progressed, the recovery process has progressed,
Right.
And
as we see with Woody's program and yours too, it's more specialized.
Right. Yes.
You know what I mean? You're treating an individual as opposed to just treating a thing.
Rich, didn't you go up to Bill Wilson's house recently?
I did, yeah. I was up there a couple of weeks ago, and it was amazing. I met Wally P., who is a historian for Alcoholics Anonymous, and he goes from the 50s to from the 30s to the 50s, and how they used to do it back then. And it was in a day, 4 hours. Boom, boom, boom. You went through the steps, you did all the stuff, and then you were a member of AA. And I think, it was like quick and like, let's get it done, and let's get in and let's get going.
Right.
Today, sometimes I seems like, everything's like, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And I think sometimes now, unfortunately, with all the stuff that's going on with the drugs, people are dying.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Quick.
Yeah,
Quick. Like, they haven't been through the process. They, I'll wait, I'll do it whenever.
Sure.
Whenever might be too late.
Certainly.
Might be too late, So, but anyway,
all right.
That's the sad part of it, right?
Right.
Unfortunately.
Tony, cheer us up, will you?
Yeah, Jesus,
How do you
son,
think
huh?
you're here?
All right,
It got me to depress everybody. No.
I got one for you that you reminded me of this earlier. They tell me the Kinks are getting back together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Somebody hide the cutlery.
I remember I saw them at the. Oh, that was the Tubes.
The Tubes. They're
Tubes,
different.
remember them?
The Kinks.
The Kinks were different. Yeah. Tubes were good though.
I got a trivia question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We're going to take a small little sincere moment break here.
Oh,
sounds
sincere.
good.
Oh.
And now it's time for a sincere moment with Shanti Sincere Slade, brought to you by Soul Sessions.
Welcome to a sincere moment with Shanti Sincere Slade, and today we're going to talk about how gratitude attracts more abundance. Planting your feet firmly in the soil of gratitude brings more of what serves you. So make sure to be grateful even for the breath of life, grateful for all those things that we consider to be little. Be grateful and make sure that you're in the space of receiving and allowing more things to be grateful for. And that's gratitude with Shanti Sincere Slade on A Sincere Moment.
Pretty nice, huh?
Gratitude.
I feel like I got a back rub.
She's great. Sincere is great.
Am I not supposed to make fun of that?
Grateful heart will never drink.
Is that sincere moment sincere?
Yeah, very sincere.
Okay.
No, very
well,
sincere. Lovely,
I feel
lovely.
it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do.
She's awesome.
She is
Woody,
awesome.
Woody, I know you do a lot of fundraisers and a lot of stuff like that. Do you have anything coming up to let our listeners know where they can go and maybe see Tony V on? I know I seen Tony at one of your fundraisers and maybe support the cause and everything. You have anything coming up that you can share with us?
Well, yeah, we do. I mean, every Saturday night at Right Turn is a party.
Nice.
Sober Cafe.
Awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
But we're planning a super group event for Friday, November the 2nd.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're kind of in the beginning stages, and I do know that Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers is going to be with us.
Nice.
Simon Kirk from Bad Company is going to be with us.
Holy cow!
And
headliners.
But I don't really have a full scope of what the whole night looks like. But it's going to be at the Commonwealth Hotel in Kenmore Square.
Nice.
Don't you have a fundraiser on the August 13th?
Well, we have the Mercedes golf champion.
Turn. Yeah, I golfed with those people yesterday for pitching in for kids, another charity, and they mentioned it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so how do they get involved in that?
So they can call us at Right Turn if you're interested in sponsoring the golf tournament. We're happy to talk to you about coming on the golf tournament. Simon Kirk is going to be golfing with. He's going to be on my foursome.
Beautiful.
If anyone wants to golf with Simon Kirk and Woody Giessmann, God help me.
Sure.
Simon's a really good golfer.
Sure.
Is he? I bet.
It's
and
yeah.
If anybody wants to golf with me, you should have your head examined.
And where is that? Woody?
So the Blue Hill in
nice.
August 13th.
August 13th.
August
I believe.
13th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, beautiful. It's the Mercedes Championship.
Nice.
Give Right Turn a call, 781-646-3800 if you want to if you're interested in sponsoring or being a part of it.
Super.
Yeah. And guys, I've been to that a couple of those super groups. They're amazing. Some of the headliners he had at that place. It's worth the money going. It's just an amazing night. It's a sober night. It's and Woody plays once in a while. He'll jump on the drums and play. And John, I don't know if John's one of your guys there. It also is. I mean, it's just an amazing night for the ticket that you buy at this place is just amazing. You couldn't even go see, let's say, a Rolling Stone show for what they do. You know what I mean? And he had some good headliners when I went too, right, Woody?
Yeah, man. We had Alice Cooper. We've had Chuck Berry.
That's awesome.
We've had Ace Frehley from Kiss.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, we had Warren Haynes, who I got to play with as well. The guy from the Allman Brothers.
Yeah, that's
Really?
awesome. Yeah. Wow.
What a nice guy.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, that's it. Friends in Recovery.
And this is what
already.
That's it. 42 minutes. Wow. 44 minutes. I want to thank my guests. Obviously, we've been very fortunate to have Woody Giessmann and Tony V. It's been a great show. Of course, my good friend down there, Rich, the step guy, comes every Tuesday, and today he's here. So that's it. Friends of Recovery broadcast live from Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Thank you, Dave, for having us here. Don't forget, you can reach us at help@friendsofrecoverypodcast.com, 1-800-989-6504. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Be sure to like us. Come get sober with us, and thank you, Genesis House. Hey, Ed, we'll see you later. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks
for riding the pine.
Guys.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Genesis
Great
Head
job,
rules.
guys.
Bundle up, Ed.
Great job.
Bundle up, Ed.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.